This day in sports history. It's December 30th, and today we're talking legends, like guys who were legendary on the basketball court or the football field. I'm also talking about a legend, like a story about a historical event. But this legend, like a lot of other legends, is completely false. And a golf legend is celebrating a birthday today. All that coming your way right after this. Hey, real quick, you've heard me talk a lot about the Sterling Soap Company over the past few months, and if you haven't tried out their soaps, I get it. It's not easy changing up your routine. But let me just say, if you give them a try, I'm nearly 100% certain you will have zero regrets. They carry not only bar soap, but shave soap, liquid body soap, body lotions, beard balm, lip balm, and a lot more. Plus, there are myriad scents to choose from. Their products are made with natural ingredients and scented oils, and they are committed to being environmentally conscious. And I always get a handwritten note on my packing slip, so I know it's been checked before shipping, and it's a nice little human touch in a world that seems to be going away from that. Give Sterling Soap a try today at sterlingsoap.com. On this day in 1968, an NBA legend stopped a future NBA legend and passed along a little encouragement. Bill Walton was a 6'8" junior at Helix High School in La Mesa, California at this point, and his high school team was playing a game prior to the Lakers-San Diego Rockets game at the old San Diego Sports Arena on this day. Helix had just dusted another Southern California high school team, one of their 29 wins that season, and Walton, a shy kid by nature, had a pretty good game, and he was walking back to the locker room after the game with his head bowed. He knew the Lakers were waiting in the wings, ready to start their pregame warm-ups, but he was too shy to make eye contact with any of the guys or speak with players like Elgin Baylor or Jerry West. But then he said, "This huge black arm just stops me dead in my tracks," and I look up, and it's Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt says, "Billy, that was a great game, and we'll see you up here in the NBA really soon." Well, that gave Walton a rush of pride, and sure enough, after another season and a half at Helix, 4 years at UCLA, Walton was drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers, and he fulfilled Wilt's prophecy. Though they never played against each other in the NBA, Walton did have a bit of an impact on Wilt leaving the Lakers in the 70s to join the San Diego Conquistadors of the ABA. After the Lakers won the NBA championship in 1972, Wilt wanted to renegotiate his contract, but management put that on the back burner in the hopes that they could entice Walton to leave UCLA a year early. When Walton decided to go back to college, the Lakers management came back to Wilt and said, "Hey, what do you think about that contract for next year?" Well, Chamberlain was miffed, and he jumped leagues instead, believing, like a lot of people, that a merger between the NBA and ABA was imminent. Well, speaking of two leagues getting together, on this day in 1978, the National Hockey League agreed to absorb 4 teams from the World Hockey Association. Instead of a merger, though, the NHL treated the teams from the WHA as expansion teams, and as such, the teams had to pay a $6 million entry fee to join the NHL. The 4 franchises allowed to join the NHL were the Edmonton Oilers, the Hartford Whalers, the Quebec Nordiques, and the Winnipeg Jets. Now, one concession that the joining teams got in the deal was the ability to protect 2 skaters and 2 goalies on their roster. That was especially important to the Oilers, who had recently acquired Wayne Gretzky from the Indianapolis Racers. One of the teams left out of the expansion for no good reason was the Houston Aeros. They were one of the most successful WHA franchises, winning 4 consecutive Western Division titles. They won 2 of the 7 Avco Cups, and they played for another one. The Aeros were the only team to win an Avco Cup not admitted to the NHL. Scott Skiles had some flash, but he wasn't the flashiest of point guards. He may have played for the Magic, but his play was not overly reminiscent of Magic Johnson. But he could dish the rock. On this day in 1990, Skiles dished it a lot. The Magic were playing the Denver Nuggets, and this game was not close after the ball went into the air. Skiles was finding open guys, and those open guys were knocking down shots. By the fourth quarter, Skiles was tracking towards the NBA assist record for a game of 29 set by Kevin Porter in 1978. With more than 6 minutes left, he had already tied the record. But there was one small problem. The Magic were up double digits in the game, and so some bench players were on the floor. Jerry Reynolds had apparently not been paying attention to Skiles' efforts, because every time Skiles fed Reynolds the ball expecting him to shoot, he put the ball on the floor and drove to the bucket or passed it away, ruining the record-breaking assist. Finally, with 20 seconds left in the game, Reynolds got the message. Shoot the ball!
Here comes Skiles front court. Skiles to Reynolds. Jump shot is up. It is good! Gary Reynolds! Scott Skiles with his 30th assist for the night. And that's the new NBA record. And a standing ovation for the Magic point guard. 30 assists in this basketball game.
Skiles' 30 assists is still the NBA record. Another guy who was really fun to watch was Barry Sanders, and on this day in 1988, he had a game to remember, capping the best season a college running back ever had. Sanders and his 12th-ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys were playing the number 15 Wyoming Cowboys in the SeaWorld Holiday Bowl at Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego. And this game was supposed to be a shootout, but it seemed like only one gun was firing. Sanders had been named the Heisman Trophy winner earlier in the month, and he showcased why on the opening drive, sprinting untouched for a 33-yard touchdown.
On third down this year. This is one of the reasons why he's gone for a touchdown. Barry Sanders, 33 yards.
So that was only the beginning. He scored his second of the day in the second quarter and added his third in the third quarter.
Oklahoma State has had two quick scoring drives lately. Let's see how they answer. How about Barry Sanders to midfield? He might go! 67 yards.
Sanders would actually show off his passing skills on a trick play throwback to quarterback Mike Gundy to set up his fourth touchdown of the day. And then, with time winding down in the third quarter, he scored his fifth and final touchdown of the afternoon.
Second and 3, first down, touchdown!
His 5 touchdowns were a nice accompaniment to his 222 yards he had on the ground, and he did it all in 3 quarters. He sat out the fourth and then was named the Holiday Bowl MVP as Oklahoma State routed Wyoming 62-14. Obviously, winning the Heisman means that Sanders was the best player in college football that season. But this season was also the best of all time. Not counting his bowl game stats, Sanders rushed for 2,628 yards. He had 3,249 all-purpose yards, which includes rushing, receiving, kickoff return, and punt return yardage, and he scored 39 touchdowns. He set 34 NCAA records that season, and it all ended on a very high note on this day, 37 years ago. On this day in 1907, Abner Doubleday became the inventor of baseball. Now, the idea that Abner Doubleday really, truly invented baseball is the sports equivalent of George Washington cutting down the cherry tree. It's a nice story, but it didn't happen. Now, this all came about because Albert Spalding, the sporting goods guy, wanted baseball to be an American invention. He was not a fan of Englishman Henry Chadwick's claim that American baseball developed out of the English game of rounders. So, he created a commission to look into the true origin of baseball, and putting true in air quotes there. Abraham A.G. Mills was put in charge of that commission. Now, This guy had a reputation for enhancing the truth. I've talked about him before on this podcast back on Christmas Day. And he was the over-embellisher of that 1862 baseball game played on Hilton Head Island, when he estimated that 40,000 were there to watch it, when other people said it was more like 10,000. Still a pretty good crowd, but 10 and 40,000, a pretty big difference. Well, anyway, so this is how the idea of Abner Doubleday being the inventor of baseball got started. It goes back to a letter from a man by the name of Abner Graves, written to James Sullivan. Graves claimed to have knowledge of Doubleday as a student at Green's Select School in Cooperstown, New York, and organized the first baseball game along the shores of Lake Oswego in 1839. Apparently, he improved town ball, an accepted forerunner of baseball, by limiting the number of players on the field to 9, and then normalized the number of bases to just 4, and then gave it the name baseball. Mr. Mills, our serial embellisher, added to the account without any proof that Doubleday also outlawed the practice of throwing the ball at a runner between bases to get them out. There was more to the report, but it was all released on this day in 1907. Of course, the guy who commissioned the report, Albert Spaulding, was thrilled with what it said. This substantiated everything he believed in, and he simply ran with it. This resulted in the plan to build the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown in 1937 to celebrate the centennial of baseball. At that point, a man by the name of Bruce Cartwright said, Whoa, hang on a minute. My grandfather, Alexander Cartwright, invented baseball back in 1845, and I've got the diary entries to prove it. The problem with the Doubleday myth is that there is not any evidence he ever set foot in Cooperstown to begin with, and none of his writings ever mention baseball. Add to that, Abner Doubleday is not in the Hall of Fame, and Cartwright is. The fact that the Doubleday myth continues to hang around can be attributed to what the Mills Commission released on this day in 1907. And happy 50th birthday to Eldrick Tiger Woods, the owner of 15 major championships, was born in Cypress, California on this day in 1975. Happy birthday. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Only one U.S. citizen was ever caught spying for Japan during World War II, and she was a purveyor of dolls. Velva Lee Dickinson was born in California but moved to New York City with her husband in the 1930s. She opened up a doll shop on Madison Avenue, but after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, she started to pass along details of U.S. ships to the Japanese in advertisements for dolls, as well as in letters to individuals. She would mention dolls in her correspondence, but they were really references to U.S. warships. The FBI was alerted in 1942 of her activities. She was arrested in 1944, indicted in 45, but was able to avoid charges of espionage, instead pleading guilty to a censorship violation charge and spent 7 years in prison. That's all I've got for you today. Come on back tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.